Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court, if it ever got to the Supreme Court, would side with President Trump regarding executive privilege. Why? When people say, well, they didn't side with Nixon during Watergate, there was an actual crime committed. There was a crime and a cover-up. There was a Watergate break-in. The Democrats didn't hire CrowdStrike to tell the United States government whether or not the plumbers broke into the Watergate building or their headquarters. They didn't rely on a third-party tech firm or a third party. It just the security guard there notified the authorities and people, and there was no doubt, and there was evidence of a break-in. Really quickly, I'll read you. This is not, we have high to moderate confidence based on CrowdStrike giving images and copies of DNC servers to the FBI, and they're reputable. Why? Because the Democrats outsourced them. No. Watergate break-in. Okay, here. It's just... In May 1972, as evidence would later show, members of Nixon's Committee to Re-elect the President creep broke into the Democratic National Committee's Watergate headquarters, stole copies of top-secret documents, and bugged the office's phones. This was a criminal act. There's no two ways about it. The predicate crime was the break-in. The cover-up was, 18 and a half missing minutes of tape? Let's see, 18-minute gap in... There's a whole bunch of Nixon White House tapes. When she listened to the tape, the gap had grown to 18 and a half minutes. Then they said, well, the secretary accidentally erased it. Look. There were other examples of obstruction of justice, and the Supreme Court then ruled that Nixon could not invoke executive privilege. But President Obama did during Fast and Furious. Bill Clinton did. A great many presidents have invoked executive privilege. It's authorized under the Constitution. The president is the head of the executive branch. What Democrats are saying is that, we need to see everything regarding the Muller Report, and furthermore, Sarah Sanders lied because she said a whole bunch of FBI agents were upset with Comey, and that wasn't the case. This is CNN going after Sarah Sanders. It's like, oh my God, any amount of hyperbole. First of all, there are a great many FBI agents that have already appeared on Fox talking about how Comey just destroyed the reputation of the FBI. But see, again, any hyperbole, it's like, oh my God, how dare you? Steele dossier that is complete rubbish? Like... a work of fiction, that's actually used to start an investigation. And I'm going to do a segment on the fact that Joseph Mifsud, when he was asked by the FBI this is according to The Hill and the Daily Caller, John Solomon and the Daily at The Hill and the Daily Caller, he denied ever talking about Clinton emails or the DNC emails with Papadopoulos. And Natalia Veselnitskaya, there was no link between her and the Kremlin, and I already did a segment on the fact that Mueller never interviewed either of them. Those are the direct links to Russia. Those are the contacts. Those are the primary contacts that Trump was supposed to have in this grandiose plot to hack the election. Look, Democrats believe that the information about their corruption is proof of corruption. or a grandiose endeavor to defraud the U.S. No, it's like we need to know that Bernie Sanders was cheated, even if Bernie, in a cowardly act, helped sweep it under the rug. Bernie sold his soul to the Clintons, and all he got was AOC's garbage disposal. What is this thing? Is this the work of Mitch McConnell? Mitch McConnell's dug a hole in my sink. They're obsessed with me and my beauty and my intellect. This is the person we have to listen to. This is the person preaching about the future of our nation and the country and the planet. What is this thing? It's speaking to me. Well, speak back to it. Maybe you can... Maybe it's an alien life form in there, and you can make some kind of truce so they don't take over the planet. It's like, this is the person, in addition to the IKEA and then the, chopping up vegetables and making dinner on whatever, and then, Amazon, no thank you, Amazon, with your 25,000 to 40,000 to 107,000 direct and indirect jobs, economic growth, back off. We're taking it to the oligarchy, man. This is who we have to listen to. Anyway, look. The Supreme Court has a conservative majority, and they would side with President Trump, primarily not just because they have a conservative view of executive privilege, because actually the Supreme Court, when you read about it, there's a PolitiFact article, there's a whole bunch of articles. The Supreme Court was going to side with Nixon, but they said, hey, there's an actual criminal act. And so this isn't national security. This has to do with a self-serving purpose. But with Trump, he didn't invoke executive privilege until right now. He could have during the Muller probe. He gave Mueller over 1 million documents. It was a sprawling investigation where one left-leaning pundit said, well, it wasn't focused enough. No, it was too sprawling and too open-ended and too broad. You had over 30 people indicted that had nothing to do with any work or collusion with Russia in any way, shape, or form. This is what they did, is politicize a criminal investigation that was unlawful to begin with. And then they said, "Oh, you lied to the FBI." These are FBI agents, by the way. Peter Strzok is no longer at the FBI. He was fired. And he's the one that Michael Flynn allegedly lied to. And we have Andrew McCabe and James Comey said he didn't deceive the FBI at all. Then, it's like, then the judge during I guess one of the sentencing hearings a couple months back, about a month and a half ago, said, "Oh my goodness, you sold your country out to Michael Flynn." And then right after that, of course, everyone ran with that. Oh my God, oh my God. Well, then you know what really took place. He was not a foreign agent. He had stopped working as a consultant before he became Trump's national security advisor. So then the judge, who is a great judge, said, "Oh well, I misspoke. I didn't understand that he stopped working as a consultant for a foreign country." But of course they ran with it. And what is his crime? His crime, simply, the only indictment is that he lied to an FBI agent. He didn't commit there was no wrongdoing. This whole, he spoke to Sergei Kislyak. So what? Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin. So what? And now we have Joseph Mifsud saying, well, I didn't really speak to Papadopoulos about anything with Clinton. It wasn't that big of a deal. It's nothing. So now we know, did Alexander Downer deceive the FBI? Why isn't Alexander Downer mentioned in the report? He's not even mentioned. Glenn Simpson isn't mentioned. Fusion GPS isn't mentioned. Are you kidding me? Mueller didn't interview Joseph Mifsud, and he didn't interview Natalia Veselnitskaya. But the Supreme Court is not going to, if it goes, see, Democrats are now, they're done. They have like nothing left. They're going to have to now rely on policies, and they're not implementing Medicare for all or abolishing ICE. Talk about a bait and switch. AOC and the freshman, congressional representatives, the freshmen in Congress, the freshman class, or the congresswomen who are like, these big progressives, they wanted to, these are the policy goals that you won't hear any longer from pundits that, champion these people. Medicare for all didn't happen. It is May. They haven't voted on Medicare for all. Gee, I wonder why. They could pass it through the Democrats control the House. Abolishing ICE. Oh, you told a fib on that one also. You're not going to abolish ICE, are you? $15 minimum wage. Okay. Green New Deal legislation, not resolution. Wow, sleight of hand there. So we're supposed to save the planet with a resolution that everyone is like mocks and eviscerates. Even the AFL-CIO is against. No discussion of bringing Americans home, bringing American soldiers back to their families. Tulsi Gabbard's talking about that. Now look, I'm voting Trump 2020. I bring that up because here's a Democrat who is talking about that. These interventionist conflicts, and that's in her commercials. She's actually talking about that. She's a veteran. Okay, so I'm bringing her up because she's the best the Democrats have. But of course they don't want the best. Clinton is running again. Why do you think all of this took place? She hasn't stopped running. And if I'm the only person in America saying this, I told you I was one of the few people in America saying that Clinton would lose. And the left didn't like me. Basically, they didn't like me for the same reason they don't like Michael Tracy now. Although Michael Tracy's he'll never become a Trump supporter like me, but he's against Trump and all that. I want to say nice things about the guy, but I know that will be taken as by the imbeciles in that cult called the Democratic Party. That'll be taken as, oh, yeah, H.A. Goodman, oh, yeah, you see, that's even more horrible that he said something nice about you. No, Michael Tracy is an honorable guy. Probably disagrees with me on most things, or a lot of things, whatever. Disagrees with my support of Trump, or, he's against Trump, but he's an honorable guy because he's telling the truth about the hoax and the myth and the farce called Trump Russia. And he's just they're going after him. The liberal establishment that are all going to vote for Clinton and push for Clinton. That's why when your favorite liberal pundit is like, well, Clinton had a lot of problems. I critiqued her. Oh, I can't. Please don't run again. Please. They're going to vote for her again enthusiastically. And they will descend upon anyone with a great deal of malice. If anyone on the left, the left focuses only on, they claim to battle the right. They never get into arguments or disputes on Twitter with anyone other than people on the left that they want to just fall in line. But anyway, where was I going? Look, the Supreme Court is not going to, with a conservative majority, is not going to side with the Democratic Party if it got to the Supreme, and they know this. They know this. And you have possibly Amy Coney Barrett as possibly in the future, potentially the next Supreme Court nominee. So you have a conservative majority in the Supreme Court that theoretically could become even more of a majority. You have you have a Senate that's Republican. You have a House that is pretty much powerless and inept. There's zero like grandiose legislation. So that's the point. I mean, they were elected. They won the House with these promises that I knew they wouldn't. I didn't think anyone would believe these ridiculous promises because I knew that they were just full of. They had no intention of implementing any of this. But they won. And now they focused only on the Russia, the Muller Probe nonsense. There's no collusion, no obstruction. And now they really can only rely on the Supreme Court. They just held William Barr in contempt. They can't stop Trump from invoking executive privilege. They're going to make this out to be this grandiose thing when William Barr is willing. That's another reason the Supreme Court wouldn't. William Barr is willing to testify in front of the House. And guess what? The committee counsel can just give notes to people to the people to their the representatives in Congress. They don't William Barr doesn't even have to speak to committee counsel. These lawyers, the lawyers can just type up notes for Eric Swalwell and AOC and everyone else to read. It's like, no, we have to have him. He's not going to subject himself to that. So they know that they've created this obstacle, and they say, oh my God, he's refusing our grandiose authority, our oversight. Then they want Trump's taxes. And they're not going to get that either. They're going to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to be like, okay, well, why do you want his taxes? Well, we think there could be something criminal in nature. Do you have a specific business project that he was accused of a crime by the local authorities or state or federal authorities? No, but we're working on it. Well, come back to us when you've tried to accuse him of an actual crime, and then even then we might not even, ensure that you get his taxes. The IRS has, the United States, this is the difference between Clinton, because Trump actually during the debate said, yeah, I'll give you my taxes. He goes, if you give me your 33,000 deleted emails, which is hilarious because she deleted emails, and then you get, what they've done is they've inoculated themselves from Clinton's criminality by saying that Trump worked with Russia to obtain Clinton's private emails through Natalia Veselnitskaya and his son, Trump Jr. It's like, well, wait a second. Even if that were true, if he obtained the emails, that would have shown that Clinton was, her server was hacked. And we know just the other day, I did a segment on this, that her server, there was endless attempts at foreign powers, people infiltrating her servers. Well, I mean, they were running on Microsoft Exchange software. They were outside the U.S. government, and they had, somehow, top secret and special access program intelligence. So when Bill Clinton, not long ago, says, if you look, the Columbia School of Journalism said that the media wasn't fair to Hillary, and they focused too much on the emails. Oh, I'm sorry, Bubba Bill. A United States, a Secretary of State, the highest diplomat in the country, and one of the highest U.S. officials, has servers outside of the United States government where miraculously she was able to transfer, store, send, and receive classified data, including top secret and special access program intelligence. How on earth was she able to pull that one off? And the media, by the way, didn't connect the dots with Clinton. They never accused her of writing love letters to Putin. They never said, oh my God, They never did anything they never talked in the manner that explained it in the manner that I explained it. Certainly not in the manner that Tom Fitton or John Solomon or Dan Bongino or all of these, Kimberly Strassel, Sarah Carter, all of these people, Paul Sperry. There was zero suspicion, but according to Bill Clinton, there's just too much talk about her emails. It was just emails. She was just getting, videos of squirrels surfing. No. They had to report the story because it is probably the biggest, alongside the fabricating, setting up and framing an incoming president, which is something that we've had a peaceful transition of power. One of the hallmarks of this country is that we've had a peaceful transition of power since Washington. And President Obama helped, end that wonderful tradition. So now we don't have a peaceful transition of power anymore. Thanks, President Obama. That's fantastic. Your legacy is fantastic. In addition to not knowing that your own Secretary of State was using servers outside the United States government. See, it's not her emails. This is why, journalists, they're focusing on a Trump Jr. meeting with an attorney that has no links to the Kremlin. How do we know? Because Attorney General Loretta Lynch allowed her into the country. Why would President Obama's administration allow Natalia Veselnskaya into the country? It makes no sense. And she met before and after with Fusion GPS's Glenn Simpson, who, by the way, is miraculously also not named in the Mueller report. Gee, that's funny. How did that happen? I'm sure everything was above board with the Mueller team of loyalist attorneys, Clinton loyalist, Democratic Party attorneys, who gave a total of over $50,000, around $50,000 to the Democratic Party. I mean, from Clinton purchasing the Steele dossier to a team of attorneys that actually gave $50,000 to Democrats to CrowdStrike being outsourced by the Democratic Party. It's at what point is this fair? I would love to ask David Pakman, who's a very intelligent guy. I disagree with him on a lot. He's a very intelligent guy. I would ask Mr. Pakman, you believe that Trump worked with Russia still? Possibly. I don't know if he still does. I think he still thinks there's... Do you think it is... would you say it's fair? Or would you say that it's... would you say there's a conflict of interest in that Hillary Clinton purchased the Steele dossier and it was used as quote-unquote evidence against Trump? Would you say there's a conflict of interest in a CrowdStrike assessment against that says the Democratic Party, the DNC, was hacked by Russia, and CrowdStrike is a third-party entity that was outsourced by Democrats? So you have Clinton outsourcing the Steele dossier, you have Democrats outsourcing a third-party tech firm, and then you have Alexander Downer, who just hearsay gossip says that he spoke to Papadopoulos, and then some guy named Mifsud told Papadopoulos that he had dirt on Hillary, and then Mifsud then goes around and tells the FBI in 2017, yeah, that never happened. And so I would ask Mr. Pakman that. I would ask, all these people, Cenk Uygur would ask the same thing. If Trump purchased a dossier on Clinton and there was an investigation that was formed, and asked them, during the investigation against Clinton from a Trump-purchased dossier, if Peter Strzok said, we will stop Clinton, what would you say? And then here we have Madam Cyberhag talking about implicit bias. Oh, the bias. I mean, we get lectured on this implicit bias, subliminal bias, subconscious bias. We just have to, there's just so much bias. You have so many, you have come to a predetermined conclusion, especially when it comes to Clinton's candidacy. Peter Strzok said, we will stop Trump. Trump voters are smelly. Trump is, all these names that I can't even say on YouTube, and he should lose 1,000,000 to 1. Do you think perhaps that's bias? And he was in charge of the Clinton cover-up. Gee, do you think that's bias at all? With the implicit, subliminal, Oh, no bias there. No bias at all. No bias at all. There's no bias. Well, there's just no bias at all. Then the wonderful and intelligent, really wonderful person at TYT, Anna Kasparian, she said, well, there was nothing illegal. Well, of course there was. Actually, the whole thing was illegal. According to Chuck Grassley, he had to read 4 of the 7. He had to read Comey's memos in a skiff, and 4 of the 7, according to on his website, a letter that he wrote to Rod Rosenstein, that 4 of the 7 are classified. And because of that, Comey would have had to have given at least one classified memo. We can read it right now. Let's read Chuck Grassley. And I'd read them this, and this is all public record, so here. Chuck Grassley. Memo. Grassley presses Justice Department on classification. This is on his website. According to press reports, Professor Daniel Richman of Columbia Law School stated that Mr. Comey provided him 4 of the 7 memoranda and encouraged him to, quote, detail Comey memos to the press. If it's true that Professor Richman has 4 of the 7 memos, then in light of the fact that 4 of the 7 memos the committee reviewed are classified, it would appear that at least one memo the former FBI director gave Professor Richman contained classified information. Professor Richman later read a portion of one of the memos to a New York Times reporter. So, this is from Chuck Grassley. 4 of Comey's 7 memos were classified, and he gave 4 to his professor friend. The actual probe was started with an illegal act. Then you have FISA judges not being told that Christopher Steele was actually hired to obtain dirt on Trump. Why is it that the orange monster can never have enough dirt on him? But Snow White, Hillary, the most, the purest, most wonderful angel, can't have, dirt on Hillary. Oh, dirt on Hillary. Oh. No. Dirt on Hillary Clinton? But Trump, it's okay, Access Hollywood tape. It was timed right before a debate, no problem. But the DNC emails were timed by Russia. I would love to debate, why would Russia be afraid of Clinton? Why would they, because of the NATO payments? Or making NATO member countries pay a little bit more? Well, big deal. They obtained 20% of U.S. cash flow to Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal. That's the verbatim New York Times article. I'd read the New York Times article. Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin at his home. Uranium One gave millions into the Clinton Foundation. I would simply ask anyone in a debate, do you think it's coincidence? You think they wanted to derive any, beneficial treatment? Anything? Because Snopes doesn't debunk any of that. What Snopes debunks, quote unquote, is that, that Hillary controlled the uranium. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. And I would read the ODNI and DHS reports that actually state, judgments shouldn't be confused with fact. The crazy thing is that the public record, you can pull the curtain on all of this using the public record. So it's kind of like there is no, this isn't like some, grandiose, plot to deceive. It's actually, if you just do a modicum of research, just marginal amount of research, just a little research, you'll see gosh, the intelligence community isn't certain about anything. There are actually no guarantees. It actually says that in warranty disclaimers. Judgments should not be confused with fact. I explained that in my Federalist articles. I'd read my Federalist articles during debates. And they can read their articles that they've written. So, but whatever. It is what it is. Trump is in the driver's seat, and this coming election in 2020 can't come soon enough. The retribution, the euphoria of that night. It's going to be, I said Clinton would lose in 2015. She lost. And, one rebuttal is, one of the points Sam Cedar made to Michael Tracy was, well, did you know the extent of Russian interference prior to the Mueller probe? Well, of course, the alleged Russian... Yeah, of course, the Mueller probe is a rehash of the ODNI and DHS Department of Homeland Security reports. Those are the two intelligence reports that James Clapper presided over, where he literally told Chuck Todd, we have no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. This is months before in May, the Mueller probe started. So yeah, the Mueller probe was a complete waste of time. In fact, they didn't even interview the two primary links to Russia, which is Mifsud and Natalia Veselnitskaya. Gee, wonder why? Maybe because the whole thing was a hoax and a farce to begin with. Now they're saying Trump obstructed justice. There's not one document that they wanted to, like, okay, the Clintons obstructed justice with Watergate. With Whitewater. There's testimony and evidence there that they, and the independent counsel wanted to obtain, they couldn't obtain. There's nothing that the Mueller team wanted but couldn't get. And at the end of the day, it's very easy to prove that a whole bunch of people conspired if you tap the phones of 10, 12, 13 people around Trump. Actually, more than that, if you'd read Papadopoulos' book, what they did was, like, the friends and family of everyone that they were going after, they had to interview those people and talk to those people. So it was like a whole mess. And still they found nothing. And they looked at a server at Trump Tower because of the whole Alpha Bank. Oh my God, that proved to be nothing. They tapped Papadopoulos, Flynn, Manafort, nothing. The assessment that Russia hacked the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated, that we only know that from CrowdStrike. And BuzzFeed, The Daily Beast, Gizmodo, Vice all state that they gave copies. They gave copies to the FBI. Well, why on earth should we trust copies from these people if they're outsourced by Democrats? There was nothing learned from the Mueller probe. And then what they do is they fall back on, well, we don't like the way William Barr summarized the report. He's deceived the public. Well, what did he deceive the public? Well, Trump was really bad. He told Jeff Sessions' staff or something. And Michael Cohen said he did something. And James Comey said a whole bunch of things. It's like the Comey memos, we have zero clue if they're accurate because they're the rantings and ravings of James Comey. Comey lied under oath. He stated number one, that it was unanimous that not to indict Clinton. And I love when people get on me. Kyle Kulinski got on me for stating that Clinton would be indicted. One would think that this big Bernie Sanders booster would want Clinton to have been indicted. One would think that people on the left would have wanted Clinton to be indicted. So when I was actually doing the heavy lifting when saying, hey, you know what? There's a criminal and there's Bernie. See, they didn't want to go there. Gee, I wonder why. But James Baker wanted to indict Hillary Clinton. Lisa Page wanted to indict Hillary Clinton. James Baker was the top FBI legal counsel. He agreed with me, or I agreed with him. So James Comey lied under oath. He stated it was a unanimous decision. There were probably more people who wanted to indict Clinton. He overruled James Baker and Lisa Page. So that is an actual lie. And then he said, well, we didn't exonerate Clinton until after her interview. He had already written the exoneration letter prior to 17 witnesses, including Clinton. So these people, Clapper and Brennan, under oath, they committed perjury as well. So it's endless. It's just endless. We can go on forever. But I love how the notion that you could say Clinton was going to get indicted, people are like, he promised Clinton would get indicted. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, I had no clue that there was an actual grandiose cover-up, and then they were going to frame and set up Trump. I actually thought the FBI was an independent organization, which is actually very naive of me. They were an extension of the Democratic Party. So, I don't know, as an American citizen, you kind of, I guess, grow up thinking the FBI is at least somewhat independent. I get it, they've been politicized, but at least somewhat independent in this matter when you have like such an overt, egregious harm to national security regarding top secret intelligence outside the U.S. government. So, anyway, give me your thoughts below. My Patreon is below if you want to support my voice long term. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated and allows me to just be independent and give you my unique analysis on a whole bunch of things. My Federalist articles are below. Please share them. My Jerusalem Post and Daily Caller articles are below. And HA2A, I know I've been neglecting my firearms channel, but that is below as well. Subscribe to that, and I will be uploading something very awesome very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court is going to side. If it comes down to the Supreme Court, they'll side with Trump, and they'll side with William Barr. Okay. Because we have no evidence of an actual crime. Sure, a foreign nation infiltrating the DNC would be a crime, but guess what? We don't have the U.S. government to guarantee that. Now, Mueller indicted people, but that's based on Company 1. If you read the indictments of Russian intelligence officers, it's Company 1. When's the last time the United States of America utilized Company 1 as the basis of their evidence? Usually the FBI obtains evidence. Your local police department obtains evidence. They don't go to the defense attorney and say, well, gee, do you know any good forensics experts? People who can read fingerprints. You go ahead and outsource them, defense attorney. We'll trust anything you give us. That's not the way it works. A crime scene is analyzed and evidence is obtained by the government, by local officials, whatever, the city, the state, the federal government, whether it's the FBI or local police or district attorney, whatever. You don't just hire somebody and say, oh, yeah, well, they're reputable. Yeah, to you. Why didn't they just ask for Trump strike? Why didn't they call President Trump and say, hey, do you know a good technology company? Why didn't they call up a Trump supporter who has his own tech company and just went, he could have gone with the hat and everything and said, oh, I'll look at your servers, no problem. Oh, there's nothing wrong, Anyway, give me your thoughts. The interesting thing is, in addition to the Supreme Court, they don't have the Senate, so they can try to impeach Barr, they can impeach the president. And by the way, I'm actually rooting for them to impeach President Trump. Because then in the Senate, the Republicans would have to circle the wagons and actually admit that all of this, and the establishment Republicans, people like Chuck Grassley and Lindsey Graham would be even more vocal against all of this nonsense. But it would actually highlight the fact that there's zero evidence Trump colluded with Russia. It's like everything they do backfires and doesn't help them at all. I actually think that would be fantastic, because then people around the country would be like, wait a second, why are they impeaching him? Why are they impeaching this guy? Yeah, we don't like his personality, but the economy is good. Foreign policy is a lot better than President Obama. The economy is a lot better than President Obama's economy. So, things, the country is functioning, the meltdown, the biblical meltdown of epic proportions hasn't stopped. because they just can't stand the orange monster in the White House. But people, they would ask, like, why? And Democrats are like, they're completely inept. All they've talked about is impeaching Trump, and they've said there's evidence of collusion, so impeach him based on the evidence you have that Mueller couldn't find. But they won't even impeach him. They're all talk, and there's no action. They're no Medicare for all legislation they're voting on in a democratically controlled House. No impeachment in a House controlled by Democrats. Oh, big deal. Oh, they held Barr in contempt. Ooh, he's really, oh my goodness, he's so scared. I'm sure he goes and he goes, oh my God, honey, did you know what happened to me today? Oh my God, this is the worst day ever. He doesn't care. He's laughing. And check out my last segment. He's laughing. So is Trump. They're in the driver's seat now. Comey, Strzok, McCabe, all of them. The whole mishpacha. All of them. They're going to go and they are under the 18371 statute, the same statute they try to use against Trump. They're going to go after these people because they actually set up and framed President Trump. I mean, it seems like it's interesting that the reality of what took place is the antithesis of what MSNBC and CNN are talking about. What actually happened is the opposite of what you hear from the Washington Post and New York Times. The exact opposite. They're complicit in all of this too. The DNC emails say there's friendly journalists, and we know. So anyway, give me your thoughts. This is an important segment, actually. Very, very, very important segment because it kind of highlights once you even bring up the Supreme Court, the liberals and the conservatives on the court are brilliant. And they're all going to ask, well, what is the crime? Where is the evidence? And the evidence is linked to Clinton? The evidence is linked to the Democratic Party? Really? Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Thank you so very, very, very much.